Why, hello everyone, and welcome to Lotus Chat episode 69, Self-Judgement. And today you have myself and the Lotus ladies, ZeAnn and Jazzy. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome back.
Yes, and welcome back to everyone out there. And this is such a great topic that came at a very perfect time, at least for me, to discuss today with everyone here. Whether you're joining us on YouTube or on our Spotify podcast, thank you so much for being here. And so our first prompt question that we're going to discuss today is what are some ways we judge ourselves? So Jazzy, what are some ways that you feel you judge yourself?
Okay, so I'll give you three ways. The first way is performance, what I'm doing, and second would be looks. It's not a specific order, and thirdly is this right or wrong? So those are my three ways that I judge myself. And I think the right or wrong is probably the biggest to me because it sometimes it would look like in the form of, did I say this right? Did I do that right? Feeling right or wrong about feeling a certain way. So that one kind of just branches off into different emotions for me. What about you, ZeAnn?
I relate to the one that you say about performance, and I think for me, work performance is where I actually really judge myself. I think in specifically how it looks like is that when I'm comparing my own ability as a trainer with other more senior trainers in the company. So I feel that, that story in my head is like, oh, I'm not good enough, or, I can't close that sale as fast or as efficient or as much, so all that story just pops up in the head. So I think that's something that I sometimes struggle with, where I tell myself, am I not good enough? How come I can't do that? But yeah. What about you, Jenn?
I would say that you guys have said a few of the things that I thought of when I thought about the ways that I judge myself. In terms of performance, I think for me, I would change the word a little bit to more so of expectation. And I believe it's very external, depending on like whether it's like judging myself because of what my family expects or what my significant other expects or what even, the guy that I'm dating expects or even work expectations. The other one that came to me is just, judging ourselves based on comparison, because sometimes we may hear someone say, oh, she's pretty, or, oh, she's this, or, oh, she's like so like accomplished. And then of course you start looking at yourself in a way where you're like, am I that pretty, or am I that accomplished, or am I that XYZ? So I think there are many ways that we can all judge ourselves on a daily basis, depending on what we hear and what we actually, have grown up with. What, whether it's from an adult person or a peer or a friend even. So that leads us into the next question, where those, thoughts come from, those self-judgment thoughts come from. What do you think, ZeAnn?
I definitely resonate with what you say about comparison. And I think that judgment for me comes a lot from my own impatience, like when I'm in my first phase of my journey, I'm trying to compare with senior trainers who's probably been doing this for like, I don't know, 30 years in the journey. So of course, there will be some difference. And of course, that definitely comes from like comparison and that, impatient. I just want to get this right fast, Yeah. What about you, Jazzy?
Yeah, I definitely hear what you ladies are saying. So when it comes to when I hear comparison, I can relate because what I'm hearing, the theme is like not enough. Is this enough? Am I enough? Is this going to be good enough? Is this perfect? Is this excellence? Like it's a lot of self-questioning, right? So where does it come from? Well, I feel like sometimes it's less judgment, right? Of like what others might think. Because I had the tendency to think about what others might think. And when I let go of that, I realize stepping outside of the box, it's more of like my own self-judgment that hurts me more, is that I might actually believe or subscribe to any of the opinions. And I heard someone share that like when it like our inner being and our spirit is essentially, it's perfection. It's there's nothing wrong with our inner being. Like we're completely like one with God, if you will. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then the 20% is actually our mortality, our humanity. That's the one that has the mistakes and that has the emotions, that has the stemming emotions that create a different reality outside of the inner being. So we've got our inner being and we got the outer vehicle. So that comes equipped differently. So the self-judgment from that could be so critical. Like it's like the outer being knows that the inside's perfect. So it's trying to match the perfection. And it doesn't always work out like that. So I feel like the self-judgment is like comparing itself to the perfection that is within in some way. And so the people outside of us are kind of like just another extension of us and another thing to start comparing oneself to. So that's where I feel like self-judgment comes from, is just like having another baseline outside of self. Jenn, what about you?
That resonated for me, what you just said, Jazzy. And that takes me back to what I have heard in all the things that I've like read and heard from other great speakers out there and gurus per se. I really have heard them say, like, you know, when we're born with no judgment of ourselves whatsoever. We are born children, you know, who just are literally innocent to everything externally from us. Like we you know, we have the people that care for us, that as we grow, we start listening to things around us and it starts becoming like sponges. We start integrating all those thoughts and all the things that people say. And all of a sudden our little minds that had no concept of like, you know, all that, like when you go to school, your first day of kindergarten, and you saw another kid who maybe had some cute sneakers, and you're like, "What, I want those sneakers." And, you know, your parents were like, "Well, you know, you're not going to get those sneakers, but we'll get you something different." All of a sudden, there's this pattern of like, well, if they have that and all the kids like them, why can't I have that? Because then the kids are going to like me too. I think growing up as kids, like we just become so impressionable to opinions and judgments of others that then we become anxious teenagers, and then eventually adults who overthink because we're like, well, what about this and what about that, and why can't I have that, and why am I so different, why doesn't that person like me, why doesn't that person love me? It becomes this whole pattern of why. Because they have it, why can't I have it? Or, you know, all those things. So I just feel like it's a conditioning. I mean, if we go back to just realizing that the self-judgment is because sometimes we let those opinions of others get stuck in our heads, the judgments of others get stuck in our heads, then we can separate ourselves from the opinions and the judgments and see ourselves for, as Jazzy said, the beautifully perfect, you know, even with all of our quote unquote imperfections, as we sometimes say, is all a part of our beauty. It's all a part of it. And so that takes us to, what fears are you hiding behind when you do fall into these self-judgment thoughts? Like, what do you think, ZeAnn? What fears are we hiding behind?
For me, what you said just now about social comparison, that definitely, you know, hits a spot, because I think it's only natural that everyone compares themselves to others, and it's just within our human nature that we do that. And we do that, I think, because we just don't know whether what we are doing is okay or not okay, right? So that's why naturally we'll just, okay, let's see what the other person is doing. Then you realize whether you're better or not. I think the challenge is like what you said, when that self-judgment is you place that benchmark within your mind. if it motivates you, you compare yourself and it motivates you, that's really good. But when it doesn't motivate you, that's when self-judgment comes in. So I think the fear for me, what's the fears that I'm hiding behind self-judgment is the fear of looking stupid. I think that's for me, you know, the fear of like being wrong. You know, why can't I just be wrong? I don't have to be right every time. Oops, I made a mistake. Oh, okay. You know, like what's wrong with that? That's the fear that I'm hiding behind. Yeah. And I guess really just, you know, not being able to take that risk. You know, I need to be more risky, but sometimes I probably stay safe all the time. Yeah. What about you, Jazzy?
I totally agree with when it, like, I know I mentioned earlier, and as you're saying now, when it comes to like looks, and what I meant by that is like, do I look stupid? Does this look right? It's almost like this, it's unrealistic in a way that it doesn't, there is no such thing as right or wrong, good or bad. Everything just is, right? Like it's supposed to be as it is, and it doesn't, the ego has the tendency to create a meaning like, oh, this means that, and if I compare myself to that, that means that I'm less than, or I'm not as worthy, as you were sharing earlier in your example, Jen, that oh, these people have it and why can't I have it? That says that, you know, the ego wants to say, um find a way for survival or self-preservation. The ego, my ego, I'll speak from that, is kind of naturally akin to trying to find a way of survival, or like, okay, accept, being accepted. And like you said, it is definitely conditioning, right? You just wanted to be a part, feel like you belong to something. And so there were many things growing up that kind of created this reality of what I hid behind, because as studies say, 50 to 70,000 negative thoughts. So I'm hiding behind all of them that say, okay, let's put up all these masks to hide the insecurities and the fears. And when I like this year has been a very intense year of shadow work for me. So a lot of them came up to surface. I was unmasking myself. I had really great mechanisms that made me feel confident and safe. And yet, when I took off the masks, I'm like, okay, there's insecurity there. There's a little bit of fear, feeling less than. Am I really worthy? Like, these things would come up, and it was such a raw experience. So, some of the fears, like I said, are just like worthiness, um, being accepted, like right or wrong, or like, what else did I hide behind? Perfection, which is such an illusion, such a delusion. It's such a, it's a sabotaging path to go down, to think that you can chase perfection. And so that just also validates the not enoughness. So yeah, I think that's it's a mouthful, but it's a raw experience. I know that it's, you know, something to unlearn, right? So yeah, that's what it was for me. What are some things that you hide behind, Jen?
You said a lot of the same ones that I was thinking as both you and ZeAnn were talking about yours. I think the right or wrong one, ZeAnn, you know, when you were talking about that, and Jazzy, I think that I have had people kind of call me on that. Like, you know, there's no right or wrong, Jen. Just be you, do you, you know, be authentically you, you know, whatever happens, but at least you're being true to yourself, is usually the response I get. But for some reason, it's one of those things where I think the fear that I hide behind with fearing doing something wrong or right is the fear that if I don't do it right, whatever it is that I really care about is somehow going to leave, or is somehow not going to work out. And the time and the investment that you put into, let's say, a project or a person or something that you're very passionate about, that you put, you know, all your heart and soul into, if you see it not come to fruition, then it makes you feel like, oh my God, like I'm the screw up, or I messed up, or I could have done things differently. And you start the what if, the big what if conversation with yourself. And I think that is one of the ones that I've learned. And up to this point, I'm realizing that it, like Jazzy said, it is okay if something doesn't come out perfectly. It's okay if it doesn't happen in perfect timing based on how I would want it to happen. If it happens like, months from now or tomorrow, whatever, yeah, thank goodness, or thank the heavens. But if it doesn't, then I just need to be okay with the process, however it is, however hard or challenging, it is all a part of the process. And I know that a lot of people, it can be a little difficult, including myself, to have that type of patience and that type of surrendering. But but again, for me, if I want to get rid of that fear of self-judgment of being wrong, fearing I'm going to be wrong and that's it, it's going to ruin everything. If I get rid of that, then it really allows me to be in full surrender mode and let the universe and let things, what did they say? What is meant for you will truly never pass you by. That's, my grandfather used to tell me that growing up. Jenn, what is meant for you will truly never pass you by. And so if somebody says no because you quote unquote made a mistake that they didn't agree with because you said it in the wrong way, and now they ghost you or whatever, or they decide they don't want to have any type of relationship with you, that is their choice. You have no control over that. You only have control over how you react. That's it. We only can control our own reactions. And that leads us to our next question, is what is self-judgment costing us? If we decide to continue in self-judgment mode, what is it really costing all of us? For all of our viewers out there who might be in this mode right now, who wants to go first?
I can go first. I think self-judgment is costing me my creativity. I think because I judge myself, then I am not sure and probably unwilling to take that risk, and I become less creative. Sometimes I think of great ideas, but not wanting to kind of share or propose those ideas just for the fear of looking stupid, but actually that idea itself is crazy. So that definitely creativity is one of them for me. Yeah. What about you, Jazzy?
I got a list. Of course I do, right? When I realized that self-judgment costed me, and speak from the past as I look back, in reflection, I see it costed me opportunities to be seen and heard, to voice myself, to freely express, to probably say something that could have impacted or helped someone else. It costed me playing bigger. So just by hiding and playing small, because I wanted to be in analysis paralysis or self-critical mode, it wasn't as fun. It's just living small. It also cost my authenticity. Like, this wasn't really me, like the real me or the inner me wanted to be like now, or like passion or fire, or and it's like, oh, let's just dim it down. I would dim my own light. It would cost me my light. Like just putting me in the corner. Let's see. It just would cost me my elevation, essentially. It didn't grow me. It just kind of kept me in the background, or a wallflower. And I realized that once I stepped out of that comfort zone, there's so much more. It's actually abundant. It was such a scarce place to live in, such a cold, dark, isolated. So it cost me connection.
Jazzy, I have to tell you, you said it cost you your light. That hit. And for all of you out there, if you feel like you have been having to dim your light a lot lately in life because you're afraid of what other people will say or do if you decide to be authentically yourself, we feel you, we understand, and we know it is difficult to kind of get yourself out of what I call the hamster wheel of self-judgment, the hamster wheel of having to fit into a mold because you're afraid other people won't be comfortable with the real you. And it's not really about other people's comfort. It's about how comfortable do you feel in your skin. When you look in the mirror, how comfortable do you feel looking at yourself saying, like, you're awesome, you're great. You know, yeah, you may have made a few mistakes in life, but hey, you got yourself right back up and you keep going. And that just shows how strong you are. And that just shows how much you're willing to invest in yourself to get to where you want to be. And I think that part of when you said dimming your light, I think sometimes we dim our light because we want to fit in so badly. And we want people to love us and see us. Where we start kind of, how can I put it, sacrificing our true essence so that we could be accepted. And that could be anything, any type of relationship, anywhere. I think that I have done that more than once, and I'm at a point where I realized that what I was sacrificing was way more serious than what I wanted, which was my authenticity and my peace. Peace is such an important word. When you can find peace, then nothing else around you is going to rock it. When you know that, you know, this person is driving me nuts, or this, you know, the situation is just not aligned with where you want to be, and you've tried and tried and tried to make it work, and you finally just drop the mic and like, I'm out. And you just keep walking forward. That's when you know you've chosen your own peace above the anxiety and the stress that all of those things have caused you. So that is just one of the many examples I can give to all of you out there if you've ever been in that situation or felt like that. So, yeah.
Thank you
And
so
most-
much, Jen. Yeah.
I want to add to that. And most importantly, when you not only just choosing peace, but you're choosing yourself. You're choosing to love yourself, give yourself permission to be, because that is the key to elevating self-judgment, right? Is to accept oneself for where one is and to be able to be love and bring compassion into that. And what I learned about compassion is that it's to alleviate suffering from one's experience, you know, to be able to empathize. And I'm going to share an acronym because this has helped me so much to just remember to practice. Because although, like, you know, we are reborn from the shadows and we can embrace our light, but sometimes when we get to that point where we're on ourselves, grace is a huge thing that really does support and empower us to continue moving forward. So my acronym for grace is give, radical, acceptance, compassion, and empathy. And that's like my reminder, because before it's like grace, you know, this idea, right, of like elegance or just be nurturing, but really it is to radically accept and be compassionate and be empathetic. And so when I get to stand for self-love and be that to myself, I get to breathe a little bit deeper and with this sense of self-acceptance, and know that we are all very unique. We're all similarly different and different in similar ways, you know? So it's to know that there is, you know, for what purpose comparison and sabotage and victimhood to what our minds do. It's really about how do we cultivate that inner peace and self-empower ourselves and love ourselves as we would our children or other children.
Yeah, that's why the word self-judgment, I think, you know, the word self is at the beginning before judgment. So that's why sometimes I feel that everything is in our mind. It's how we kind of place that self-judgment. It could be imaginary. No one said anything. Everything is just your imagination, you know, that hence the word self-judgment. So I want to encourage whoever who's listening out there, and if they felt that they are experiencing self-judgment, you know, just really like what Jazzy said, have some compassion to yourself and, you know, cultivate that inner peace within you. Okay, if you feel empowered from today's conversation, I want to encourage you to click like, subscribe, and follow in both our YouTube and Spotify channels. And if you have some new ideas for us to empower you with new topics, we are open to that. Email us at lotuschatworldwide@gmail.com. So signing off today, I'm ZeAnn.
I'm Jazzy.
I'm Jenn.
Bye.
Bye.